This is Boxing Tickets NI in association with Violent Gentlemen. We're glad to say well, the last time we had you on, it was on Instagram. You broke our Instagram duck and I said I was never going to do it again, but delighted to be joined by Thomas Carty. How are you, mate?
All good, bro. All good. Nice to be back on with a good internet connection this time.
Definitely. The last time you had, it was jumping in and out. I think it was red for about 3 days afterwards because I was actually on camera rather than from being behind the other side. But definitely makes a nice change now we have you at home with a good connection.
Absolutely. A lot more comfortable, yeah.
Definitely was. It only seemed like yesterday, obviously, we were chatting to you in Belfast, the 4th of September, probably 6-7 weeks ago. But obviously a lot's changed and you know, in the world normally, as it normally is, but obviously in your own life. You obviously made your debut in May in Belgium. But obviously since then you obviously haven't had any fights. What's been going on? Have you been, probably as Johnny Nelson would say, would you be developing through sparring in other camps, or have you been making decisions in the background?
Yeah, definitely. There was a lot of stuff going on in the background that I would say kept me from fighting, but was just slowing me down in making a fight and deciding where to campaign, you know. So there was a lot going on. And while that was going on, I was kept busy. I was in sparring in Croatia with Filip Hrgović. He was fighting southpaw, doing bits and pieces at home. But I train hard now all the time, bits and pieces at home. From Hrgovic's camp, I came back, and that's when the Otto Wallen and Dillian Whyte fight was announced. So as soon as that was announced, they got in touch then about coming over sparring. Well, I actually texted him and said, fantastic, you finally find a lefty, you know, and it went from there. So I came back there Thursday, was there for 6 weeks.
And that was out in Portugal, wasn't it? Algarve?
Albufeira, yeah. First time in Portugal, 6 weeks.
Sunshine and boxing, sure you couldn't beat it.
Yeah, I don't know, Irish people, but me anyways, my skin, we're not really made out for the sun, so I was hiding most of the time, to be honest. But yeah, it's good. Training in the heat is good, yeah.
I'm thinking pretty much the same as yourself. I look at the sun and a burn, you know, so it's...
Yeah.
The Milky Bar kid, as they always say, you know.
The only man that gets something on off a light bulb.
But obviously, you just turned 26 as well. Obviously, whilst you're away in Portugal as well. So I'm not sure. I haven't obviously looked it up, but you're obviously very young for heavyweight.
Yeah.
Do you probably still feel like you're a teenager when it comes to sort of, you know, it's like playing football, men against boys? It's sort of, do you feel like you still have a lot of developing to do?
You could say that I probably still have a lot of developing to do, but I've also developed a lot in the last couple of years as well, you know. So when I was a teenager, I would have thought I wasn't that mature. My body wasn't that mature for my age. But now that I'm at 26, I know I still have some maturing to do, but I can't see where it's going to come because, you know, I can't get close to fit me really anymore at the
moment. but obviously in terms of, you know, 26, like it's not like you need to sort of run before you can walk. You know, I'm guessing obviously the plan is probably as it nearly is for anybody, is a few fights to sort of get yourself settled and things like that. Before you then, I know you've spoken to me in the past, you said a few fights and then we'll just go anywhere, you know, the world's our limit, but you'll take a few fights to sort of materialize first, get the stabilizers off and then go for it.
Yeah, you take a couple of fights to, you know, acclimatize to pro boxing. It's obviously very different from amateur boxing and different from these long round sparring as well. So I'll be building all the time, gaining experience, but I'm all about the right fight at the right time. So if a fight presents itself, I fancy it. It's not a case where I'm going to say, oh, I'm not ready for that. If I fancy the fight, my team is ready to let me go ahead and they're backing it full steam ahead. You know, I don't want to sit around fighting guys that you know you're going to roll over and around the two. I'm not about that because, you know, I find, especially these days, a lot of people like to say to a professional boxer, fight journeyman, roll them over. But what did he ever really do? You know, that fair play. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. But it's not what I want to do. It's not the career I want to take myself, you know.
People sometimes see the heavyweight landscape as if you can't knock someone out, you're no good. But obviously, I know we're going to speak about this a wee bit later in the interview, but obviously heavyweight boxing sort of changing. I'll throw it in now. Obviously, heavyweight landscape of boxing is changing. Probably showing it's not just about power. You know, people would have looked at heavyweights in the past, and you know, you can nearly lift at their belly and you know, put it underneath their shorts. Nearly, you know, in a way it was hung down that far.
Yeah.
But as we're seeing recently, obviously Usyk and Fury, they're bringing new things. You know, not only them two, but obviously the two world champions sort of heavyweight at the moment. But they're showing things like footwork and everything else
Yeah,
involved.
boxing, like any sport, is evolving. You know, as technology gets better, science gets better, all these sports are evolving. So boxing is going to look different all the time. Like as of late, you know, it's a lot about, especially in heavyweight boxing, about strength and conditioning and the science behind building the best body to carry out in the ring. You know, so obviously heavyweight boxing is evolving. There's a lot more. The technical side is evolving, and then the physical side is evolving. So boxing itself looks different now than it did, you know, I would say even 10, 15 years ago, and completely different to 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. It's evolving all the time. So it's interesting to see what route it's going to take, you know.
It is, and you know, I guess for you yourself, you know, I know you watch quite a lot of boxing things like that as well. Who would you sort of, you know, I know people look at people like Lomachenko and things like that, probably one of the greatest amateurs, probably one of the greatest boxers, probably go down in our lifetime. But who would you sort of look at as sort of things to learn from watching fights?
Me personally, this is a strange one, but well, most people think it's a strange one because you say to, you know, armchair boxing fans, they don't know who he is. But Michael Moore is my favorite boxer to watch and take things away from, personally. And any, you know, boxing people will appreciate that. And very similar, I would say similar styles. I don't want to disrespect him when he's starting out, but he does a lot of things that I can take home. You know, there's no point in me looking at David Tua or Mike Tyson, you know what I mean? Because they're great to watch for entertainment purposes, but in terms of studying and film study, taking something away, it's wouldn't be much use to me, you know what I mean? So Michael Moore I'm a huge fan. Southpaw kind of tactics. I love Holyfield as well, you know, inside and combination punching. And big fan of the likes of Sugar Ray Leonard, Marvin Hagler, you know what I mean? For taking small things away from as well.
Plenty of obviously all-time greats in there as well. And,
yeah.
I think when I think, you know, most people think of heavyweight boxing probably the last 20 or 30 years. I think Lennox Lewis, Mike Tyson, you know, Klitschko's probably were different in a way where it wasn't exciting boxing. You know, a lot of the time they stunk out arenas because it was just about winning.
It's effective. Yeah.
You know, it was like do whatever it takes to win, and if they just had to stick behind a jab and win, sure they're winning. That's all that mattered to them.
Of course, absolutely.
You know, but obviously the landscape of social media has changed now as well. Like you could win and somebody'd still say you're crap because you didn't knock somebody out. You know, so
it's social media is toxic these days, but it's an integral part of having a boxing career as well. You know what I mean? You know, name a boxer or world champion at the moment that doesn't have a huge social media presence. There's not many, you know what I mean? It can't be done anymore because as much as it's important that you're good, it's also important that people want to watch it. You know, Jake Paul, for example.
And like people slate him for, you know, for what he does, but when you look at it in other ways, he built the name he had up through gaming and YouTube and everything else, and now he's raking it in and boxing, and fair play to him if he's making money out of it.
Paul, I think personally, if you don't respect Jake Paul, you're just jealous that he's doing better out of a sport that he's picked up 2 years ago than you are. You know, you have to respect what he's done and what he brings to the table and how he's managed to go about his business. So fair play to him. I hope to be in a position like that someday myself.
It'd be nice, wouldn't it?
It would, without the hate, you know what I mean? A legitimate fighter in his position.
Yep. And obviously with yourself, you've took your time to obviously decide on a management deal. You've sort of said in the past, you know, I'm not going to sort of make a decision I'm going to regret, you know, down the line and things like that. There's obviously just been announced you've obviously signed with Dillian Whyte. Is it sort of an offer that's been on the table for a bit of time? How did that come about? And what do you want to name any other offers you had on the table? I think Matchroom were interested as well, maybe.
Yeah, so the way it came about, you know, I was always a big fan of Whyte anyways, a huge fan of Dillian Whyte regardless. And we've always kind of kept in touch. He's advised me a bit through the years. And when it came to, you know, who you'd like to go pro with, he was never really there. He wasn't, you know, jumping out of his chair to give me an offer, you know what I mean? Because we didn't know each other personally. We knew who we were, and he was, you know, fair play to him, texted me back when I was young, and he gave me a bit of advice. But when I got called over for sparring for the Wallen fight, you know, it was kind of joked around a bit, you know, about fighting on the 30th. And I was like, oh yeah, that'd be great. Brilliant. And then it was joked around a bit about joining the team. And I said, yeah, no problem. I said, get me a fight on the 30th and I'll consider it. And the jokes, you know, evolved and the jokes kept coming. And then eventually his management team sat down because they didn't know my situation. You know, I had a bit of an awkward situation, as there's a couple of things that needed to be sorted out before I could make a decision. But we sat down with the team, had the conversations, and they put it to me. It put it to me fairly well. So obviously I went back to my team, Pascal, who I'd been with all along, had the conversation, and we thought, you know, it's a fantastic opportunity, and we were more than happy to go ahead with it. We did what we had to do. There's a bit of messing around in the background that needed to be sorted out, but no problems whatsoever, just a bit of legal stuff that needed to be sorted. And here we are now, signed with Dillian Whyte.
And obviously it's, you know, I know you've been a buzz of, you know, fighting on the card next week and stuff as well, but, you know, it's hard probably not to be excited, you know, when you look at other fighters. Obviously Dillian manages, you know, Fabian Wardley, Alan Babbage, to name a few. And obviously, you know, what he's doing, like people don't know what way to take Alan Babbage at the moment. I know, well, from what he said in the past, obviously, but other people you sparred with, you weren't a big lover of him, but obviously,
listen, I want to say Alan Babbage is a legend, and he genuinely is a legend, and a serious fighter as well. By the way, he's a serious fighter. So when me and my dad were having this conversation, obviously I spoke to my dad first when they gave the offer, you know, saying, fantastic, what do you think? And then we had a chat, and we used who he's already managed as an example of, you know, what he's doing and what he's capable of doing. And we said, it's a no-brainer, you know what I mean? He's done a fantastic job with these guys, you know, an absolutely fantastic job. So we were more than happy then to proceed with talks and then see how things went from there. And we were able to come to terms on a really good deal, and we're really happy the way things are going.
And as part of that deal, will that be exclusive to sort of Matchroom and DAZN, or because obviously I know Dillian obviously has fighters with Boxer and things like that as well. What way will that sort of landscape work out?
Well, I've signed a deal with Dillian as my manager. So Dillian's my manager, Pascal's my trainer. As far as anything else, I have no information. There's no exclusivity to what platform I can box on. It's actually been said to me. It's been mentioned in a couple of interviews that I could potentially box wherever I wanted. But they'll be managing and they're in charge of that. It's not up to me. So that's information that I don't really have. And I'd be more than happy to box anywhere, but to box on a Matchroom show for my first fight with them, second fight in general, it's massive, you know.
It's crazy, you know, they think it, and I say, at least if you're sort of like a free agent, you can fight on any platform, then it builds you up to a bigger audience, you know, because if people are only watching DAZN and they're not watching Sky or not watching, say, a Frank Warren show or a Top Rank show or Showtime PBC, at least it opens you up for more opportunities and just builds the Thomas Carty brand quicker.
Of course, absolutely. How could it get built any quicker than it's already being built? But we'll see how this goes. Yeah,
definitely. As the snowball's been set and it's on its way. But obviously, Pascal obviously was a good, you know, I guess, I know when you said when you're initially turning pro that sort of Pascal wasn't sort of trying to, he's always been a good advisor sort of to you in a way. And, you know, and then when the coaching came and obviously with him managing you, then he decided, you know, it's for your best interest. So it's once again probably showing the legend Packie is that he just, you know, he's happy because what's best for you is best for him.
Pascal doesn't get the respect that he deserves. Not that he doesn't get the respect that he deserves, but people don't know what sort of a guy he is and what he does for his fighters. You know, people don't understand. And Pascal is 100%. That's why, you know, when we were sorting out things in the background, it was kind of some awkward stuff that needed to be sorted out, you know. And if me and Pascal didn't have such a good relationship, it could have been really sticky, you know what I mean? But it was seamless, absolutely seamless. Everything sorted, not a bother, and all with my best interests, you know. Boxing is a toxic game, and people like to, you know, try and nab as much of a percentage of people's purses as they can. But that's not the case with Pascal. He's not in it for monetary value. He's not in it to make as much money as he can. He's in it to enjoy the journey and to train world champions, you know. And that's where he's seen fit for me to go. That's where he sees me going the furthest. So it was a no-brainer, you know.
It definitely is. And I say, I know I've obviously shared his company in Belfast the same night you were up, and he would talk to everybody. You know, you're probably nearly looking at the what do you call the young guy was making his debut, and you're sort of going, you're going to wrap his hands here, or are you just going to stand and chat to people all night? But that's the person he is.
But that's a really good reason why I like him as well, because there's no serious atmosphere 24/7. We turn on when we need to turn on, otherwise you're burning unnecessary energy. So I really enjoy that. Maybe it's not for everybody. For me personally, it works for me.
Definitely is, and I know obviously when he was out the other week, the way boxing is nowadays, people thought he was too early and obviously stopping the fight, and they sort of realised since he made the wrong, when he looked back and he was honest, and that shows the sort of person Packie is. He's going, I hold my hands up, I made a mistake. Yeah. I thought my fighter was beaten. He was on his way out, but at least he held his hands up. Other people just go, it's not about me, it's about this, it's about that. And he was honest.
The one comment I make about that, I didn't come out and say anything publicly about this because I didn't feel my opinion was needed, but a lot of people gave Pascal stick for stopping the fight. Do people think that Pascal makes money out of stopping fights? Do people think there's some sort of gain for him? It's a loss for Pascal as well. And people say, oh, what are you doing, Pascal? You shouldn't stop that fight. Pascal is doing what's in the best interest for the fighter, for their safety. That's the bottom line. You know what I mean? They both took a loss that night. It's not just Craig taking a loss. You know what I mean? And I'm really upset for Craig because, hopefully at the time, if he didn't throw in the towel, he could have went on to win the fight. You know what I mean? I had him winning. He was boxing a great fight. It is what it is, though. Pascal done it with Craig's best interest. Nothing, no gain whatsoever for Pascal out of it. So people are just, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I want to that's my view on it, anyways. That's my view.
Yeah, exactly. And are you looking forward to the Matchroom DAZN experience next week? Because you're already blowing up as it is, but once you're on DAZN and everything else, and they start in your videos, they start putting your tags for social media on. You're going, Craigie, what I'm going to do? I'm going to have so many notifications. I'm going to need a spare battery for my phone.
I know. No, looking forward to. Obviously, I don't know what to expect. I have a fair idea of how the week is going to go, but it's the biggest thing that's ever happened to me in my life. Without a shadow of a doubt, it's the biggest thing that's ever happened. I'm boxing on Matchroom. It's like, people are asking me, the likes my nanny doesn't understand, or some people don't understand how big it is. It's the equivalent of fighting on the UFC for MMA fighters. That's a really good way of putting it. That's how I see it. So it couldn't be any bigger. It doesn't get bigger than this. Unfortunately, obviously, Dillian's not fighting. He was supposed to be fighting. I'm not just on the card because he's off. I was on it when he was on it, you know what I mean? Just couldn't announce it publicly.
And were you sort of fearful? Because obviously I know you were in camp the other day when the rumours and things started to spread and then it was brought out. Were you sort of worried at that stage that, whether knowing everything was happening, you were signing with Dillian, you were appearing on the card, and then all of a sudden he's injured and you're going, what's going on? Is somebody playing a prank here? But obviously the relief is you're now still going to be fighting on the card even though Dillian's had to come off with injury.
It shows, you know what I mean? It shows how driven they are to still put on opportunities for all us fighters, because in normal times, a card like that with the main fight pulling off would have been cancelled and scrapped. It shows that they're really driven and really dedicated to allowing us to have our opportunities as well. So fair play to them. I'll be forever thankful for getting this first opportunity. You never forget your first, and I've had my debut, but now I'm having my Matchroom debut. So it's like having a second debut all over again.
Definitely is an iconic venue as well in the O2 Arena. Obviously, Chantel Cameron in the unification fight with McGee. But obviously, as a plan then to stay as busy as possible. I obviously heard Packie telling Irish Boxing the other day there's potentially fighting on Jason Quigley and Bobo Andrade's fighting.
I'd love that.
4 weeks time.
So I seen you put it up the other day. How many years ago was it that Tennyson boxed Farmer?
Tennyson boxed Farmer 3 years ago.
I was at it. Yeah, I was at it. Yeah, I watched that. So I seen what it's like to box in the likes of Boston, or I think this fight is in New Hampshire, but it's not too far, or wherever it is. It's not too far from Boston, anyways. But I have a lot of family there. There's a big Irish presence there, so it's a no-brainer. And it's not as if I won't be ready because I'm not a big drinker. I don't drink, or I don't live a hard lifestyle. No bad habits. So be ready to go again. If a fight this Saturday, be ready to go on Sunday. So yeah, absolutely. I think there's a 2-week gap between Saturday night and Jason Quigley's fight. So get me to America straight after the fight and let's go.
Gives you enough time to swim over.
Swim over, yeah. No, I I only do first class now. I don't know whether you've seen. I only do first class.
But obviously you're sort of like what I'd say like a part-time sort of job when you're not boxing, sort of, or obviously a full-time, whatever way you're able to do so. But you're obviously a PT by trade as well.
Yeah.
Obviously now that you're going to have a bigger landscape where you're on, you're going to obviously have to look your best and everything else. What ways sort of your own mind going to develop, or obviously with your S&C and things, is that going to have to get vamped up?
Well, S&C doesn't need to get vamped up because as of October, so yeah, it'd be a year actually. It'd be a year. I've had a new coach, John Connor. So John Connor is one of the owners of the ISI, so the Irish Strength Institute in Dublin. And me and John have been working together week in, week out the last year. And the differences and the improvements that it's brought to my game is unmatched. Like everybody's making comments about it lately, you know what I mean? I've always had the skill, but I've never really had the body to back it up. Now both are coming together. I'm seeing the fruits of it. So I'd give a lot of props to John for where I'm at the moment as well. You know, we train together. When I'm in Dublin, we train together non-stop. There's not a week that we don't see each other, at least twice, 3, 4 times a week, could be even 5 sometimes. And then when I'm abroad, we're still always in contact. Everything I do is under his tutelage. He's let me know what to do, how much to do, when to do, and what not to do. You know what I mean? So I'm very thankful to have the likes of John on board.
And it's you know, sometimes I don't realize as a fan how massive strength and conditioning is, particularly more so in heavyweight boxing, because you know one punch, you know, and the damage is done. If you've got the powers of recovery and things in your legs, you know, from a knockdown and things like that, like you don't know how good you are until you get knocked down. You know, I think everybody realizes probably Tyson Fury's first fight with Wilder. You know, he bossed in every single round, and then he gets hit with, you know, the 12th round, he gets up like Undertaker, and you're going, how can you do it?
I still, to be honest with you, that was like a once in a lifetime. I still can't believe that. That just shows how much of a dog Tyson Fury is and how much of a dog he has in him, you know. That was unbelievable. But yeah, nobody knows a good yard until you get chin tested. And I've been chin tested over the last year in sparring with these elite heavyweights. So, you know, I've never been knocked out. You know what I mean? It is what it is.
Touch wood, it doesn't come anytime sooner or anytime in the future.
Won't. There's no touching wood. I don't need to touch wood. It won't. Definitely not. And like obviously the plans to stay busy, you know, as well. So, you know, where would you like to see yourself in the years down the line? I know I was saying to you sort of off camera before we started. It's 9.5 years since we've had an Irish heavyweight champion, and the last one that was Tyson Fury. Was that something that you would like to do? I know we don't have too many Irish heavyweights. You know, what the BUA may do in terms of, you know, Welsh, Scottish, Spanish, some regions in France and stuff like that as well. Would that be a dream to obviously become an Irish champion as you build your blocks? It would mean a lot to me, you know. I think you said there's been 9.5 years since the last Irish heavyweight champion. So that's on my list. That's the first thing I'm going to do. Yeah, so that's the first thing on my hit list is the Irish championship. And we'll take it from there. Whoever wants it can get it for that, you know what I mean? And like you said, you can have someone Irish, Welsh, Scottish, and Spanish, I think. And
Spanish and French, I think it goes into like the Baltic region or something, I think it's called.
Yeah. So, yeah, no problem. Absolutely, 100%. I'd love to have that strap because it would be quite, be like an honour to me anyways, to hold the title that Tyson Fury once held on his come up, his rise, you know. So, it mean a lot to me, actually, yeah.
And I think the title's actually more than 100 years old. I was actually looking at it before we started. The title goes back as far as 1890.
A lot of history there. So yeah, of course you want to put your name down as a piece of history, and then for someone to be getting interviewed on Boxing Tickets Northern Ireland in a few years and say, "Do you want to win that title that Thomas Carty used to have back in the day?"
Yep, exactly.
That's what it is. That's what it is. You know, that's what history is all about.
It definitely is. Well, look, I'll let you go and enjoy obviously the rest of your Saturday evening. Obviously, this time next week, your DAZN sort of debut will be done and dusted, you know, or you're maybe making your way to the ring.
It'll be breakfast time by the time I'm fighting. You know, still having breakfast when I'm fighting. But don't worry, we'll gradually climb our way up to normal evening time fights.
We definitely will. But look, obviously, it's great to get a catch up. I'm hoping it's not going to be too much longer. You know, it was 6-7 weeks ago we last spoke. Hopefully it's not too long before I'm seeing he's spying about in a dressing room somewhere.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%. 100%.
But look,
I'll be around.
All the very best of luck for next week. Obviously, I'm sure we'll see you in the TV probably nearly every 2 minutes. You know, are you looking forward to, I guess, obviously having a wee one-on-one chat with Eddie Hearn?
Yeah, definitely. I'm gonna headlock him because he's been avoiding me. That's a man I need to get my hands on.
If Eddie Hearn's watching this, he better beware.
We need to have a serious chat. Yeah.
I have one actual final question before I let you go, and we're going to go. Just let me go. Do you have a nickname?
Yeah, the Bomber, Thomas the Bomber Carty.
I don't know why I didn't think of that. I'm just trying to think. I'm trying to think of what they're going to bring you into the ring with next week, and I'm going, I don't even know your nickname. So Thomas the Bomber Carty. So you stole Tony Bellew's nickname, man?
No, I didn't steal Tony Bellew's nickname because I was called the Bomber from a child, regardless of boxing. So that's where that one came from. Yeah. I think it was a thing back in the day in Dublin. If your name is Thomas, they used to call you Bomber. So that's where that comes from. So it was actually nothing to do with boxing, and then it suits because of this one right here.
The bombs are there. Definitely is. But look, we'll finally go this time. It's 9 o'clock on a Saturday night. I'm going to go and get this up straight away so we can get our prime time slot before Hearn and Stevenson later on.
Absolutely.
But all the very best of luck, and I'm sure I'll catch up again soon, Tommy.
100%, Stephen. I'll talk to you in a bit, buddy. All right.
Cheers, mate. Take care.
Cheers. Thank you.
Bye-bye.